Edge of Sports on the PPI Network.
It's Edge of Sports on the PPI Network. Welcome. My name is Jeremiah Tittle, in for Dave Zirin. While Dave is away in the Pacific Northwest touring on his book, The John Carlos Story, we were able to visit groundbreaking individuals in the world of sports, and it's all part of the University of Maryland, Philip Merrill School of Journalism's annual event called the Shirley Povich Symposium. This is the 6th year that they've done it, and the man who integrated the ACC, who came over to Maryland, it was a star wide receiver, Darryl Hill. Laron Profit. Edge of Sports listeners know Laron Profit quite well.
I'm just honored to be here to have a chance to meet with you, and thank you for everything you did. Obviously, me coming to Maryland, you paved the way for a lot of us to have that opportunity, and we wanted to be the first.
You inspired me lately out on the hardwood, hooping it up at the top level.
Yeah, I finally got a chance to come back out there and be part of the alumni game. I was like, man, it's not the same as when you're 18 and 19.
Yeah, you huffing and puffing, weren't you?
Next morning, I woke up like, whoa.
I hear you.
No, but it was definitely a great opportunity, man, to just see everybody and be a part. And I'm sure when you come back and you're watching the game, it's got to be a great feeling. Always.
I've been working here at the university the last 5 or 6 years, so I get to see a lot of my old teammates and, people from back in the days. It's always nice. It's a good thing.
Definitely.
What was it like coming back? I know this is short-term history, but more recently coming back to the University of Maryland in your new role here.
Well, I was gone for a long time, and it wasn't on campus just very rarely. And one day, Ralph Friedgen, actually it came from Corso.
It did come from Corso. Again, he recruited you.
I ran into Corso one day down, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. Corso was at some sort of sports symposium and invited, and I was there. And he saw me sitting out in the audience. He said, "There's one guy in this audience as old as me." And I said, "Corso, I ain't gonna never be old."
They always have you beating that category.
You always got me, Right.
I
said, I remember now. When I was 19, you were assistant football coach. I think you were at least your mid-20s.
Right. He might act like he's 15 when he's doing the game day on Saturday, but
that's true. So he said, do you go back up on Maryland? I said, not often. So some kind of way, right after that, I get a call from Ralph Friedgen. He said, "Hey, I ran into Corso. I'd like you to come up and talk to the boys on the team. I want them to hear about some of our history and legacy." And so I said, "Love to do it." I came up. And then shortly after that, Debbie Al called me and said, "Hey, I read in the paper that you just sold your business, and what are you doing?" I said, "I don't know. I may go play a little golf." She said, "Oh, I got something for you." So she asked me to come over and help with the major gift, fundraising with the larger donors. And I did that, and it was a great 5 years.
I think a lot of people don't realize that period of your life. We were talking before we started the interview about your business life and some of the customs there, but you had businesses overseas in Russia, in China, I'm mistaken?
Yep. Well, I try to combine business with pleasure. Have a good time while you're doing
Travel while you're doing it.
Travel while you're doing it. Travel,
make
money, wrap it into one package. So, I wound up buying some companies in Russia, and then I wound up in the timber business in the middle of Siberia. A lot of people ask me how that happened. I'm not sure myself. And from there, I used to sell timber to China, and then the pulp mill that I sold timber to said, "Well, there's another company that buys our pulp that makes boxes, so paperboard boxes, cornflakes, Marlboro cigarettes." And so I went with them, and they said, "We'd like to come into the U.S. market." And so we made a joint venture, and I was the North American distributor, joint venture partner for their paperboard packaging, and did all right. And then one day, somebody came along, made an offer I couldn't refuse.
That's the American dream right there.
His last name wasn't Corleone, was it?
Yeah, it was close.
I wanted to get back to current times. When you see now the landscape of how college basketball has changed, college football has changed, what are your thoughts on how the conferences now are forming these superpowers and schools are jumping all over the map? And, obviously the ACC has changed tremendously now. We got new teams coming in the Big East. It seems like they're inviting everybody but Sister Mary's of the poor.
Yeah.
You know,
maybe to get around to them too.
Yeah, they're like the last guy, the guy who's the last guy at the club. You know, trying to go on with anybody in there. But what do you think about that, and how do you feel?
Well, you know, having worked in figuring out that college sports is big business, that's a lot of people don't realize how big a business it is. And, of course, this business is driven by media. And television contracts is the name of the game. It all started because of Texas University's Lone Star Network. So the other teams in the conference, particularly Texas A&M, weren't happy because in the ACC, for example, all the schools share the television revenues equally. Well, Texas didn't want to share equally, and Texas A&M said, "Oh, well, we're leaving." That started. It was like a domino effect.
Okay.
Once they made that move, and I'm not trying to drop any weight on that on their school. I think that was a business.
That's
decision.
good business, right?
It's good business. A business decision they made, and so then now we got them all scrambling. Hopefully, it'll settle down because rivalries and traditions and so forth are so important in this game. I mean, I just kind of chuckled yet today, and I was reading the paper where the Big East has invited Boise State. Not that anything's wrong with Boise State, except it's in Idaho.
So when you tell the kids you're concerned about their academics, and they're traveling to Idaho,
This Big East, I mean,
West Virginia going to the Big 12,
Yeah,
it
right,
just doesn't sound right.
It certainly doesn't sound right,
sound right.
And I said, well, dang, well, I guess if they can bring in TCU, they can bring in Boise,
Right.
Boise
Throw it all
State.
out the window at that point. I agree.
Right. Yeah. So everything's out the window, but the traditions and the rivalries go out the window. I'm happy to see that the ACC hasn't remained intact, but it's been the taker inner as opposed
That's
to
true.
the taker outie. So, and I hope it settles down. I think that it's kept its geography. The teams that it's brought in are in the East. There were rivalries there anyway. There's always been Syracuse, Maryland basketball kind of rivalry, even in recruiting. We've lost some players to them.
Very true. Just recently.
Yeah, just recently. All along, I can think of a number of guys that we almost had that went there. So
This is very true. Very true.
Yeah. So, we just really want to thank you for your time. What you did, as Laron put it better than I, because of your sacrifice, he's standing here today. Absolutely appreciate you taking the time for us on Edge of Sports today. Thank you, Darryl.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Edge of Sports on the PPI Network.